I lived in the US for my entire life. Very abruptly, I made the decision to leave the country I've called home and move to Europe. Now I'm getting used to the German lifestyle of large Sunday breakfasts, and of course, complaining about trains. But we're not here to rant about train delays. Let's talk photography. I've done a few more shoots since the first video I made, which was my first time ever taking photos with a DSLR. So I've had some time to get used to using a camera a bit. But today, I want to go back to my roots and try out nature photography again. I'm joined by my friend Saf and partner Aidan for this hike. Aidan is also starting off his photography journey, and Saf will be accompanying us to try to forage for mushrooms. Speaking of mushrooms, that is the main subject for this video. Stick around to see what species we find along with other peaceful scenery to enjoy. Do you ever have one of those shoots where the first photo you get is the best one? Well, that probably would have been the case today if I remembered to take a photo of our very first sight. But that's what I love about nature photography. Everything is so spontaneous, it's not something you can quite plan for. Before we were even in the forest and had our cameras out, we saw something just a few meters away from us. It flew off before we could get a good picture, but luckily to a nearby branch. Frantically assembling our cameras, we tried to be as quiet as possible as we approached the heron. Thankfully, Aidan managed to grab a photo, and a pretty good one at that. Shrinking things down from here, I found this little guy on the bridge edge right next to our feathery friend. Okay, now let's get on to the actual hike. Pretty quickly in, we found exactly what we were looking for. Say hello to our first mushroom of the hike, ink caps. I think this is actually my favorite mushroom photo of the bunch that I got, but we still have many photos of a variety of mushrooms to go through. Nearby, we found our next fungi species, what I believe to be a porcelain fungus. Porcelain fungi are great landing spots for flies to lay their eggs, so yes, from my understanding, those little black dots I see on the top of those mushrooms there are fly eggs. That means we definitely shouldn't be eating those. Am I losing the photography crowd a little bit with all this mushroom talk? Move over r/mycology, back to the cameras for a bit. As I previously mentioned, I have a lot more experience with cameras now, so I wasn't struggling with the exposure triangle anymore like I did in my last video. A few mushrooms later, we came to my favorite part of the hike, a mining quarry. Yes, in the little German town I live in, we have a giant quarry with a beautiful lake next to it. Doing some digging, get it? Digging, mining joke? Okay, anyways, it looks like it's mainly used for limestone. It's a pretty incredible sight to see in person. Since I'm short, I had to reach my arm up as far as I could and keep the focus consistent to try to get a good picture. Which weirdly worked. This is probably my favorite shot to date that I've taken. I love the way the sun almost highlights the shovel directly in the center of the quarry there. Coming from a very flat state, I can't get over these hills, and of course, the wind turbines that are very common in Germany. But I wasn't the only one finding great photo opportunities. I'm not sure how he approached this butterfly without disturbing it, but Aidan got a great photo of this little one. With some of the best photos already behind us, we continue on. Right around the corner, we found another potential edible mushroom. No photo this time, let's see what it is. After some googling, I believe this one is a slippery jack, and that one is a golden milk cap, but it's hard to be 100% sure. If you do know what it is, please leave it down in the comments. But based on what we could find, no, neither of these are really good for us to eat. The most interesting fungus of the trip was definitely the shaggy mane, also known as a shaggy ink cap or lawyer's wig, whatever you want to call it. It looks pretty peculiar. I do believe that these guys are actually edible at a younger stage, but we didn't know that at the time, and the thought of eating a lawyer's wig doesn't really sound very appetizing anyways, so let's just move on. Let's take a quick mushroom break to take a picture of this tree. And back to the mushrooms. The next mushroom on our list was a tinder fungus, which was surprisingly sturdy. I always assumed mushrooms are squishy, but we almost mistook this one for a wasp's nest or some other sort of bug because of the tough exterior. Thankfully, it wasn't though. Finally, we were at the end of the hike. 3 hours later, and we had our grand finale. The hike ends with a giant overview of our whole city. Going from American suburban living to this has been so special. I used to live on very flat land where all you could really see was corn and buildings, so the luscious hilly greenery of Germany will always make me stop in my tracks and want to take a photo. One day, I'd like to go back into that forest and shoot during golden hour. That's when the leaves fall from the trees as the sun rays hit the auburn ground, and it really makes you feel like I'm in one of those lo-fi background videos, if you know what I'm talking about. But for now, these are the photos I have to share. If you're a beginner like me, sharing my journey, or professional curious about someone else's quote-unquote humble beginnings, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm always open for tips. And by the way, if anyone's asking, no, we unfortunately didn't find or didn't recognize any mushrooms suitable for consuming. It may have been too late in the year, but we want to give it a try anyways. I guess plastic wrap mushrooms at the grocery store it is, but that's okay. I don't really like mushrooms anyway.